Alrighty, After the Holocaust. So, first thing I can say is what a miserable game, right? I know people who like it though. It's probably the same kind of people who were craving the very heavy Euros. The problem I have is, and especially now that I kind of am seeing the way to the winning, it's not what it advertised. The game that viewer sent this really nice 1920s era lighter. It's got kind of a tricky situation. This hole, it was very hard for me to figure out how you're supposed to use it, but it's really a clever design actually for a pipe, and it's what it's meant for. Anyway, and thank you to the fellow who sent that. I do really appreciate that. People send me games, and I appreciate them too, and I never know how to say thank you, and I should do a video on what a cold-hearted bastard I am in general. But anyway, in this case, it was something I could just kind of introduce into something else. So, the problem with this one is that it really kind of boils down to this puzzle that the game doesn't tell you how you're supposed to solve. Well, puzzles aren't supposed to be that way. But I mean, I've played it a few times and not been able to solve it. Maybe I'm not the cleverest guy in the world. My old friend was able to solve it, at least in theory, although it didn't work out for him. But he got one piece of it. That piece is counterintuitive, though, to what you're supposed to be doing here. It feels like you're supposed to be rebuilding the country. Now, you can get the country stable at a certain level. In fact, you start out stable at a certain level within your territory. And then basically you have to do something terrible, which is starve a bunch of your population to be able to jump to the next level. And maybe again at the next level you have to do the same thing. That the cost for each of these leaps forward is so high that if you want to win the game, you have to impose this really horrendous situation where you're killing off part of your population, essentially. That's not what the game feels like it's supposed to be from the rules. When you read the rules, well, among other things, they tell you don't starve your people. Along with a bunch of other advice that actually does apply. But making a deceptive puzzle like that, and I'm not sure that was the intention here, definitely spoils some of the value of the game. But the heavy Eurogamer might enjoy all the optimizations that are involved in getting from point A to point B, unless they think kind of about what they're doing here. Because this is not a game with multiple paths to victory. This is a game that looks like it was a very carefully crafted puzzle that only allows you in, with maybe some reasonable luck, in one way. Better luck can get you in maybe with a little bit of sloppiness, but it really looks like it was designed to have one way to win, one way to get there, and not a lot else. But a lot of headache and a lot of paperwork, which isn't too bad actually, and much worse tracking everything on these damn charts. All your economics is modeled on those. It would be kind of like playing, if it were a little easier, some of the, let's say the Victoria Paradox games that focus more on the moving of materials and the economics of the system than, say, Europa Universalis does. And that's nicely suited to a computer game. And I think I would enjoy that in a board game, especially given that this game supposedly has, military units in it, and it has a goal that puts the players in a direct conflict. The problem is the damn game is just too hard to get your economy to the point where you can win the game. And the game's designed to be 10 turns. That's what the rules suggest. Of course, you've got an option to play longer, which they even spell out for you. But in those 10 turns, getting to the point where you actually win the game is very difficult. If someone does get there, if other people are serious about the game at this point, which probably nobody will be, maybe they'd try to knock him down so he doesn't win alone, so they all lose together. And that's pretty easy to do. So overall, I think it fails on so many levels here. What it does manage, though, is always has managed to kind of spark my desire for something better. But now that I see how you can solve the puzzle, because that's unfortunately always been the thing that kind of drove me in this, was, oh man, how do you do this? Is there a way of doing it without starving? Well, this time I decided, the hell with it. Problems came early enough where, all right, let's see how starvation works if we try to bump over. And the trade worked out really well in this one for one player. So it was kind of a unique experience of the game for me that allowed me to look at it a little more differently. And looking at it through the camera, knowing I'm sharing it, I didn't want to do the same old thing that I know always fails. So what we ended up seeing is that, there is a way to victory, I think. Not that I reached it. And I'm not positive of it. It's like I didn't stop short of getting it. I stopped after I knew I failed. But, and I thought I had a good shot before that. But that way to victory works out to just be this kind of everybody's playing a solitaire game and maybe helping each other out with trades. That's about it. You're not going to be, unless somebody decides to use their military to make everybody lose, or to bring someone down or whatever. It does, though, spark this idea of, is there a way of fixing it now? Knowing this, could I make it the game that it seems to sell itself as? And I think there actually is. I think if you maybe lower the requirements for the different social sector states, or just get rid of that victory condition, let people play with the model as it stands and just say, the hell with those victory conditions. But what those victory conditions do is kind of force you into a position where you do have to try to improve your economy. And I like that. And that's kind of what the problem is there, is how do you make this system just a little bit less painful on people? You could fiddle with some minor things. You could fiddle with the food chart, reduce its penalties, actually maybe give a +1 on it. In a sense, you get that +1 if you play with the fuel thing, but that again adds another lever to play with, and that's about it. It's hard to get all your different parts of your economy working already. And if you have a greater demand for food just to prevent from rolling this, it's real hard to actually get that to work until late in the game, when maybe you're overproducing metal and or fuel. The shrinkage tables definitely affect it, but it just feels so damn hard in so damn many ways that it's almost as though they had designed this multiplayer solitaire game that's as hard as any, really tough to play solitaire game, with a puzzle thrown in where it's impossible if you don't figure out the couple little puzzle pieces. with this intention of what? Making people, giving somebody something that's very, very replayable, but just miserable to play each time because not only are they losing, but they can't see what the hell they're doing wrong. And they just figure the game is broken. I suspect actually that a different game, a game more along the lines of what I expected, is what was intended. And they just didn't get that. That a failure in playtesting, or maybe playtesters finding the trick and playing the shit out of this game until they could optimize it, made it so that it was winnable as this solo game with enough practice. But who the hell wants to go through that? Might as well get a CPA or something instead, right? I don't know. I just cannot really figure out why a couple of people I know liked it. I think it was just the challenge. But it's as though they wouldn't admit, hey, it's just impossible, which I kind of suspected, actually. No, I'm pretty sure it's not. I'm pretty sure that we have the solution here, but at least a part of it. There's another solution for how to get to the final victory, because all I figured out was how to get to that step where you're able to produce in what seems like a manner that can increment you enough, or increment you every turn, but there's not enough time still. There's not enough time without sinking your country in some means to make those final victory conditions. It's so it would be completely unsatisfying to win if it involved wrecking my economy. If you can win with a sustainable economy where turn 11 would still be okay, and you'd be able and expect to be able to just grow almost indefinitely from then, that you've solved all the problems, that would be cool. I don't really need those puzzle problems, though. I would be cool with the game if it was fairly easy to get a win, by their definition, by playing it safe. Not guaranteed by any means. A bad roll can still skew you. But playing it safe in the sense that you're stockpiling a little extra and everything. The way that we're seeing here is I had to play really close to the edge and do ugly things, and still I didn't make it. But I can guarantee you I came closer than I ever have playing it safely. So there's just, I don't know. There's far more better games out there. The pity of it is, I don't know of anything else that goes into this kind of, even this fairly limited detail on a macroeconomic scale. Most of the economics games that I've seen are far more abstracted than this is. And this actually opens up the way for a even more detailed game where you're actually tracking the individual transportation of goods within your own economy. I think if you tried to do that, you would quickly find out that, hey, those internal transportation points aren't really sufficient. You need lots and lots of transportation units, but nowhere near the fuel that you would need to move all that shit around. And that's, 20 points of movement points is what each one counts as. That's not going to get you very far with any of those goods. You're not going to move things around very easily. So that's very disturbing too. Anyway, overall, this is something that I guess maybe there are a few people who really want to play it. By telling you at least what I've figured out, I'm probably spoiling whatever advantage there is to the few people who actually like this game. I don't know. Because I can't imagine liking it once you solve that issue. then it just becomes optimization and nothing else. And not very interesting optimization. Something that it's a game that I really would have liked to see it work well. But unfortunately, I don't think works terribly well as a game for anyone. And B, definitely is far, far from the kind of game I want to play. I like it where the economics is present, tells me something. I don't feel like this is actually a realistic simulation either. It's just a more detailed one. Some of the aspects seem really unbelievable in it. So, I'd much rather a lighter economic system, but with the same kind of focus where there's the military, but you really kind of don't want to use it. I like that. I think that works well. It's just there's a lot of different apparent routes in this game, things that you could do, but the reality is all of them are bad ideas. All right. Anyway, I think I'll load this one up.